All right, so hopefully you noticed that I emailed all of you these extra exercises. You have an electronic copy of this now. And I'm not going to go through all of it, that'd be stupid, but they do have some guidelines here, and they tell you sometimes they're going to give you starter files, etc. When we get to that point, I will make sure you have the starter files. All right? What we are going to have to do, and you don't have to look, but please listen to this. This first one that we're creating, you already saw it. It looks like this. This is what we're going to make in just a minute. And I think you'd agree, there isn't even a graphic in there. It still is 40 meg. So you can't email your stuff to me. So what we're going to have to do is when you're finished, all right, when you're finished, in fact, we'll work on that in a second. But when you're finished with each one of these projects, you'll have to let me know, and I'll have to give you a flash drive. So you're going to have to make sure on the folder, they tell you, for example, on this one, they tell you to call it XEX02 quotation. Well, that's kind of a stupid name. But if you want to call it your, whatever your name is, CH2 or something like that, that'll make it much easier when you start sending them to me. I had this happen this morning. I had 8 people for their first test, and their name of their folder was portfolio. So I had 8 people, and they were all called portfolio. We worked around. It wasn't bad or anything, but I just want to make sure it's going to be harder for you guys. So they tell you to read through it, etc. I mentioned this to you before. If you don't know this, if you don't look up on the screen here, if you go out to Muroc.com, Muroc, of course, the publisher of the book that we have, and if you go out there, and I never remember how to get there, so I just click their icon that will come up eventually that says view all books. So shop books, view all, and under the view all, I'm going to go down here and look. There's the ASPX, there's our book. So if you click on that icon, all right, and you go down, free downloads, all right. So all of the books, applications, and exercises are right there. Well, gee, when you give them to us, Jeff? Well, let's see. The EXE file is 440 meg. All right, I can't exactly zip that and mail it to you, but you can go out there and grab it if you want to. All right, so that's all of the stuff that's in there. I'm not giving you the exercises from the book because they give you them. But if you want to try any exercises in the book and you have problems, well, if you want to download that, then you've got the answers. All right, so, well, I don't want those. Then you don't have to. All right. But what we're going to do, I'm giving him a couple more minutes. He's already tardy, but we'll see. All right. So this is what we're going to build. Let's take literally about 2 minutes and go through every step that's in here. There's about 20 steps. It says for this exercise, you'll build this one-page app. And you should all be smart enough to look at this. They've set it up as a table. All right. But there's actually 3 columns in the table. There's one here, and the one over here is going to hold our validators. Okay. So H1 tag, an HTML label, a text box, an HTML label, a text box, an HTML label, an ASP.NET label, an HTML label, an ASP.NET label, and a button. That should make sense just looking at that. All right. So we're going to create that. I'll show you exactly what to do in just a minute. And again, we're going to walk through all of the steps in this. I even put a couple extra notes in my copy because I went and did it this morning. We're going to start this, and they don't tell you to do it. We're going to do it as an empty project just so you get used to bringing everything in, again, on your own. So they tell you to do all this stuff, and they actually want you to do it as an empty project because they say when you run this, you're going to get that unobtrusive validation problem. So we're going to fix that. All right? And then they say make the final look and feel. Well, the only CSS that's in here, if you look on the screen, hopefully you can tell by looking at it. There's the only CSS that actually you can't see it on here is I made one of those error classes that I made the text red for the validator and bold. All right. The other thing that I did, and you don't have to do it with CSS, hopefully you can tell, these two fields are both bolded. So we'll fix those in our properties window, and I'll show you how to do that as we're going on. All right? So what I'd like everybody to do, if you haven't already done so, is start up Visual Studio, all right? And File, New, Project, all right? Make sure Web is chosen, ASP.NET, all right? And click your Browse button because you want to make sure that you're in your desktop and then you're in your extra folder. So you can put all of your assignments in there. Does that make sense? I'm not going to pull them all out every time that you turn them in, but I'll pull out the current one. All right? So it's easiest, you know, don't put any blank spaces in here, but just put your first name, your last name, Chapter 2. Something like I've got up there. I've got Jeff Scott, Chapter 2. Do something similar to that. It's funny, I told the first year people when we were doing this practice thing as a class, now we made a footer and I said prepare, created by, and I put my name. I said put your name here. Two of them still turned it in and had my name on there. All right. So once you've done that, you can click the Create Directory for Solution button. It's fine to check that and click OK. That should bring you right here. We want to make sure, of course, empty is chosen. All right, we're going to click OK. And it's going to go through its stuff, and it's going to go and build this for us. As we're going through this, if you have a problem with anything, you're going to have to let me know, okay? All right. So we've already gone through and done step 1. Not like that was a big thing to do, but we've got to start at least. All right? So the first thing that we have to do, since it's an empty project, is we have to right mouse click on the name of the project. It makes it much easier with your name on it to know where to right mouse click. All right, so on the project name, add, new item, and they want us to add a new web form. And they want us to call it default.aspx. Okay? Again, I don't think I'm going too fast when I'm doing this. And if you fall behind, then you're gonna have to catch up. Okay? But I want everybody to at least be this far. So we've now got our form on there. Okay? You get all this stuff that's in there. So that's what your form currently looks like. Okay? All right. They tell you you don't have to do this, but they say you really, just so you know this, you're probably never going to use those div tags that are right there in blue. So they tell you to highlight them, just hit delete. Make them go bye-bye. All right? If you don't do that, it doesn't hurt to leave them in. Okay? But there really is no reason to do it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put in an H1 tag. And it's supposed to say, we're going to make it look just like the one in the handout. Whoops. Price quotation. Yeah. And the Q is not capitalized. This is exactly the way they show it in the book. Boy, I got to have Charles work on this machine. I mean, I'm just typing, and my screen size just doubles, triples, quadruples, and it just keeps doing it. I got mad again the other day at it, and I'm not even going to tell you about it. So we put an H1 tag in there, okay? Now, you don't have to do this, and you all know it, but if we were to go and go back again, just come on, just remove that for now. Come on, get out of there. And if we go back and forth, boy, it's not even letting me do this. If we go and look at it in design mode, that's all that's there. I mean, no big thing. All right. Let's hit enter after quotation a couple times. So we're right here. And now you are going to have to be in design mode. Everybody hear that? You have to be in design mode because we want to choose table, insert table. All right. And we want it to have 8 rows and we want it to have 3 columns. Okay. And again, I'm not going to monkey around with the coloring or with anything else on it right now. Okay? All right, so we've done all that, and I'm clicking OK. And yours should look like this when you get done. All right? And again, you don't have to do this, but if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to come in here and say border equal 1. All right. And the only reason that I'm doing that is now it's much easier for me because you've got a border in there. It's much easier for you to see what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Does that make sense? All right. And I'm looking on here. Now, you have to look on yours and tell me if I'm just even more screwed up than I think I am or not. But I'd like you to click Standard in your toolbox so you can open up your standard tools. Okay? Look in your tools, please, because they're alphabetized, correct? Do you see one in there called Label? You have one called Label? I don't see one on mine. Do you? The funny thing is if I type in ASP:label, it finds it. So it's missing from there. I had a guy who they took their first test this morning, and he was putting in CSS, and he put in color. You know, it's when you say color, how it's, if you do it in the editor, it turns blue. His didn't turn blue. But when he put in background, that turned blue. So we went and removed it. We got rid of it and we removed it and put it in 3 times, and the 3rd time it worked. And he's like, why would that happen? I said, I don't know, but it's a really good question. Because I had no clue as to why that would have happened. All right, so we've now got that in here. So the first, what we want to do is we want to come in, and if you look right here, we're not going to count by 0. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, correct? So we're going to first fill up this column right here. All right, I'll tell you exactly what we're going to put in just a second. When we get done, we're going to fill up that column right there. We're not going to worry about the validators till later. We're actually going to write the C# code first. We'll do the validators last, because that's when we'll have to go and work with that unobtrusive validation, etc. So everybody with me, we're doing this right now. This is what we're doing right here. All right. So we actually have 2 different things that we can do, all right? And the first thing, if we wanted to, and I'm not going to do this, but if we wanted to, we could choose literal right here. And we could just put literal text in there, all right? Even though I don't have label, you say you do, we could put those labels in there. But the idea is, and I told you this the other day, you may or may not have heard me saying this, but the idea is the only things that we should use for ASP.NET controls are either something that we're going to input or something that we're going to get output from. Those labels that we're going to put in here, all right, let me go back and show you this. These labels, this is what we're going to put in, are these 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 labels and a button. These 4 labels never change. I'm not asking you that, I'm telling you that. That should make sense to you, all right? There's just static text. But if we do make them labels, if we make them HTML labels, remember that we have that 4 equals thing? You may or may not remember that from back in the day in the 1000 class. But what that does is it says if you click on the label, it should take and put your cursor in here, in the text box or whatever that goes with it. All right? Not that that's that big a thing, but that's the way we're going to do it anyway. All right. So as we get in here, the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we're right there. All right? And the other thing too is, okay, if you would, now open up your HTML tools. Do you have one in there that says label? Because I don't. All right? But it will recognize a label, and that's what we're going to put in just a moment. All right, so when we're right here, just like this, okay, we're going to come in and we're going to go into our source code mode, and we don't want this. That's just a blank space, so we don't want that. We're going to put in our first label. Okay, and we'll say here 4 equals, because that's going to be the name of the associated thing. We're going to put text box. I'm going to have to shrink this down, so give me a second here. Shrink that down and shrink this down so we got enough room and you can see everything. Text box, sales price. All right, So that's what we want in there. And that's going to be our label, so we can now put in this, all right? And then we'll put in literally the words sales price. And the P that they put in the book is not capitalized. All right? And again, I'm doing this very slow. We're going to speed up quite a bit. So if you're a slow typist, I'm sorry. There's just not enough time for us to get through everything we have to get through and wait for people who can't type fast. Sorry. Now, if I go back again and I look in my design mode, pretty obvious what I just did. All right. So we want to put sales price there. Now, I'm going to show you what I think is an easier way of going on. You may or may not agree. I'm going to grab everything in my label right there, all of it. So I'm grabbing everything that you see right there. And I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. Oops, and it didn't work. Let me try it again. Let me copy that to the clipboard. All right. Then I'm going to go back into design mode, and the next one, I want to put 2 rows down. Not in the next row, but 2 rows down. I want a blank row here. So I'm in that row right here. Row 3. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into my source mode. I'm going to get rid of the blank space, and I'm going to put that in. Okay. This one isn't text box sales price. This is text box discount percent. All right, so that's what we're putting in there. Now again, if you fall behind, you have the code. You have all of the code. The first 2 pages are the ASPX code that we're putting in right now. The third page is the CS or C# code that we'll put in just a few minutes. And the last page is the CSS. So if you do fall behind, then you're falling behind. All right. So if I go back again and look, now that's what I've got. Again, hopefully by looking at that, it's pretty obvious to you what we've done so far. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get down to that next line. That's, in fact, before we even do that, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to go back into my source mode. I'm going to grab that label because I want to put in yet another one. So I'm going to grab that, copy it again to the clipboard, go back into design mode, and this one I want right under the other one. Right under discount percent, the row right underneath it. So I'm doing that. I'm jumping back into source. All right, and I'm going to put that one in. All right, and that is going to be not a text box. This is going to be a label in just a couple minutes. It's going to say label discount percent. Okay? I'm sorry, discount amount. We already had discount percent. Discount amount. All right? And then down below it, we're going to put discount amount. All right? I'm going to save that because it's a good time to save. Go back into design mode. So again, we've got something in column 1, row 1, column 1, row 3, and column 1, row 4. Okay? All right. I've got one more label that I have to put in. So I'm going to go back here again, go back into my source mode, grab the whole label that I just put in, copy it to the clipboard, go back to design mode, and now I want to go down and I want to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right there to row 6. All right. And in row 6, I want to come back and I want to paste this in again. But now it's going to be called label total price. And the text will be total price. All right. So again, if you take a look in design mode, you can see exactly what we've done. Everybody get all that? All right. The last thing that we want to do, and then we're done with this entire column, is we want to go down to the very last row in the column. Very last one. Okay? And just to show you we can do it this way, if you look up on your screen here, just to show you that we can do this, I'm going to go back into my standard controls. Make sure you're in your standards. I'm going to grab a button and just drag it down and drop it. Totally fine to do it that way. I told you the other day you can add controls and you can add them either in design mode or in source mode. Everybody cool with that? It's literally even possible if you want to type in the code in source mode. I don't know why you do that, but you could. So when I go back again into source mode, there's my button. Okay, I'm going to hit enter a few times. Because as you know, I like to space this out. Button 1 is a bad name. It's a calculate button, so I'm going to call it button calculate. And the text is also going to say calculate. All right, so that's what it should look like, is what you see on the screen right there. Okay, and if I go back into design mode, there you go. We now have the first column of our 3 columns in the table done. Everybody get that? All right. Now, what I don't like is the fact, when you look at this, this is what I want you to do, is I want to go and grab over here, and I want to drag this over quite a bit. I don't want it to be that close, but about to there. Okay? You see how I shrunk that down? But since I did that, the system goes and it writes a bunch of CSS for me. Okay? I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. It just does it. And if I go to this next one, and I want to make the second one about the same width as the first one, so I'm going to go over there and just cut it down a little bit so it kind of looks like this. But if you look up on the screen here, notice it's written a bunch of styles for me. The first one that it wrote, the width of 100, that was when the table was taking up the whole width. All right. Then when I shrank it down, okay, it cut it down, accordingly. Now you may not like that. That's just the way it is. What I did find out is you can literally remove that when you're done, and it doesn't go back and make the table big again. But all the rows that are, the stuff that's in here, notice it said class equal auto style 3. See that? So if you're going to remove this stuff, you better remove the stuff from here also. Otherwise, you've got code bloat because you're referring to classes that don't exist anymore. It's not that I don't think it's going to give you an error, but you wouldn't want to do it anyway. So I'm just going to leave that stuff in there. So, all right, I'm now jumping over and I'm now in the second column. All right, and just so you know, so everybody sees this, what we want to put here, okay? Text box, an ASP label, and an ASP label. Those 4 things. We're not putting anything in any of the other ones. There's no other button in here. There's not a clear or anything. They didn't set it up that way. If you want to put in a clear, you can. You don't have to. So again, text box, ASP label, ASP label. And we're putting ASP labels in there because those amounts are going to be changing as the program runs. Okay? So, I'm coming up to the first one here. Make sure you click in that, so the second column, the first row, go back into source mode, all right, which puts me right here, okay? And what I want to do is I want to put in a text box. So, again, you can do it in a lot of different ways, but I'm just going to grab a text box from here, and I'm going to put it in like that. Again, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, just so you know. Why does it give me that? Missing that. It's right there. There you go. All right. So I've got this text box. Again, please look up on the screen here. See where this says text box sales price? That better be what I named this. Does that make sense? That's what the label is connected to. So I'm going to double click on this to highlight it, Control C to copy, and then paste it in. Okay. We don't want to put any text in there. That's going to be what? That's going to be where we're going to put in our information. If we wanted to put a default value in there, like 1,000 or whatever, we could do that, but we're not. We're not told to do that, so we're not going to do that. All right? So what did I just do? If you look back in design mode, I've now added that text box. All that makes sense? All right, then we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go where the percent is. So I'm going to click down here. It looks like I've got an extra. See that? I've got a greater than sign that's sticking out there from something. Yep, it's right there. Just another reason to put each thing on its own line. All right. What's that? Okay. Oh, okay. So I'm going to come back here again, and in design mode, I'm going to click in the same row that the discount percent is in, which is row 3. So I'm going to, with row 3 clicked, I'm going to go back into source mode. In fact, we can do it right from here. So I'm going to grab a text box and just drag it in there. All right, so I now have 2 text boxes. Then I'm going to go, because I like to clean it up. To me, the time to go and fix this is when you first create it. So that's what I'm doing. All right, looks pretty good right now. But I want to change the ID from text box 1 or text box 2 or whatever to text box discount percent. All right, so if you look up on the screen here, this is our interface the way it currently exists. Okay, we've got in column 1, we've got in rows 1, 3, 4, and 6, we have labels. In row 8, we have a button. In column 2 right now, in rows 1 and 3, in both those 2 rows, we have text boxes. Please look up on the screen right here, in row 4, and right here in row 6, we want to put ASP labels in both of those. Again, you can just go and drag one in if you want, but since I don't have it in there, I can't do that. I have no idea. I always thought there was a label here, but I don't see it. So what I'm going to do with mine, and you can do this too if you want to, but you don't have to do it this way. Notice what this does. If I come in here and I type in ASP, in fact, if I just type in label, no, it's not even kicking in. All right, ASP colon label. See, it's there? So it finds it here. It's just not in my toolbox. And maybe that's just me. That weirds me out because I have no idea. I've used labels before. They've been in my toolbox. But somehow between the end of last semester and now, it's gone. I don't know how. All right, so I've got my label right here. Well, if I go and just close it right now, please look on the screen. So if I go and close it, okay, it's going to give me an error. And the reason, I'm going to put this on a new line so you can see it, okay? The reason that it's giving me an error, and this should make sense to all of you, is because the label needs some information. All right? Why? Because it's an ASP control. So ID equal, all right, we've got to give that a name, and that's going to be, this is going to be for the discount amount. So I'm just going to call this DISC-AMT. Not a great name, but that's what I'm going to use. And what else do I need for a server control besides an ID? Run at equal server. So notice once I do that, all my errors go away. Now, I don't have to do this, but if you look on the screen here, I can put in text, is it text? Yeah. Equal nothing. It defaults to that anyway, but we can put that in. It sure as heck wouldn't hurt anything to put that in. So we've just put a label there, and if you switch back, what you notice is that's what it put in there. That's just a placeholder where it says DISC-AMT. That's just a placeholder. All right? And it's a placeholder because it's showing you that something will be put there, for lack of better words. All right? Now I want to do the same thing for the total price. And it'll make it much easier for me. You may want to do it this way, you may not. But I'm going to grab everything that I just have right there. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. And I'm going to go back into design mode and go right here by total price. Go back into source mode and paste all that in. All right? And now I don't want it to be label 1. I want it to be label, I'll just call it total price. And I'm asking you this question right now. So that's our interface. And right now, we're done with the interface. We're going to build something over here later. Anything in there that anyone doesn't understand, you are going to be required. Your test will be worth 100 points on Tuesday. You will be required to build an interface that looks something like this. So now's the time to ask if you have any questions. All right. So on these 17 steps, we've done step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, and now step 9 says make sure you do a save and run it. It's not at all functional. There's no code for the button, but we can run it anyway. And when we run it, it should look at least somewhat similar to this. Yours should look somewhat similar to that. All right? Again, it probably won't look identical. You can always go back and change it, pretty it up later if that's what you want to do. All right? And if you look at mine, it looks, why does mine look so different? Yeah, because I put that border equal 1 in there. So mine is going to look a lot different than yours is. All right? But notice I can come in here, and I can type stuff in here, and I can type stuff in here, and I can click the button, but nothing happens because right now it's not functional. Does that make sense to everyone? I am not going to lay it out like they do here when you have your test. I would strongly recommend, and I'll be more than happy to print out a copy of this page, that you do it like this. Build your interface, test it, add some code, test it again, add your validators, test it again. Then go back and give it one last look-see, so to speak. And if there's anything extra that you have to, go back and tweak or whatever, then tweak it. All right? Now, I'm going to take for granted, because no one's been asking questions, that everybody's kept up and everybody understands everything we've done so far. All right? All right, so it's time to add our code. So I'm going to stop my run right now, and I'm going to add the code. And there's not a lot of code. I mean, there's a little bit. What I decided to do, just so you're aware of this, what I decided to do was to take all of the code and just put it in the button. Okay, just so you know that. And there's probably about, I put a comment for everything I did. So there's probably about 20 lines, but 10 of them are code and 10 of them are comments. Okay, I wanted you to understand. So I wanted you, when you take this test, if you get totally confused, you could always go back to this code and take a look at it if you get confused, and hopefully that'll help you. All right? I'm kind of doing it in reverse of what I did for the first year people. They took their first test today. On Tuesday when they come back, they've already had 2 written tests, but they had their first hands-on test today. When they come back on Tuesday, when we all come back on Tuesday, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to do the program. All right, everything they did, I'm going to do the test for them. So they took the test first, and then I'm going to show them the test. Now I'm kind of doing a pre-test with you, so you can take your test on Tuesday. All right, so I'm going to stop the run here. How do I get this? How do I get into my code window? There's two ways. I can either click here and choose this file, or I can just double click on my button. But that's where I want to be, is in my buttons click event. Again, as I show you this, I'm going to put in all the comments, and you've got the code, but I'm going to put in the comments just so you know. All right? Now, we're going to do it a little different than the way they have it in the book. In the book, they tell you put in all your code. Okay? Then at a later step, they come back and they say, only run this code if all of your checks succeeded. You understand what I'm saying? We're gonna put in the if is valid right away. Okay? So what I'm saying is we're going to add here at the top if is valid. And curlies, everything we do in this routine is going to be done inside of here. This should only run if all of our validation works. Does that make sense when I say is valid? All right, so I didn't even put a comment in there that said that. I probably should have. Only run if form has validated. Okay, so that's the first thing. So if that's the case, and again, you might not like the way I did this because I put in a lot of comments. But I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do it again the same way. So I'm putting in here declare, not they'll care, declare and initialize sales price variable. Okay? Now, if I kept typing, it would come out to here. Okay? So I'm going to put this over 2 lines. You can put it on 1 line. You can put it on 2 lines. It doesn't matter. But I just want to make sure you can see all of it, and I don't want it to be a 2-point font, so I'm going to put this over 2 lines. So, double. I'm going to call it what it is. Sales price equal convert dot to double. Text box sales price dot text. And guess what? I'm not going on until somebody tells me exactly what that thing on the right of the equal sign, what are we doing right there? And don't say, we're declaring and initializing the sales price variable. No, don't read comments to me. In English, what is that doing?
Whatever is put in the text box is going to be converted into a double.
We're saying, grab what's in there, convert it to a double. Okay, makes sense? Now, when we first run the program, we're going to be able to break it. Did you all hear that? Because we haven't put the validators in yet. Okay, so don't worry about that. All right. But what you guys said kind of collectively was true. So that's the sales price. Well, if you want to, you can keep typing, but I'm going to copy all that and paste it. I'm going to get an error because it's already been declared. All right. But my second variable is the discount percent. All right. And I've got to change that to text box discount percent. Okay. And it's the same thing that we just did. All right. We have to create 2 more variables. Please look up on the screen, everybody. We've got to have 1 variable that's going to hold this value and 1 variable that's going to hold that value. Does that make sense? And you might say, well, I'm going to make those currencies because they have dollar signs in them. No. This is my recommendation to you. You won't see this in a book. Don't ever declare currency variables. All right. If you're that worried about currency, do it when you format. All right. But we're using doubles in here, so I'm going to make these next 2 variables that we create. They're both going to be doubles. All right. So I'm going to come back because, again, I've already written some code. I'm going to do this.
Why do they like to use decimals in code?
There's nothing wrong with using decimals. They would argue to me, and they would say the reason that you should use decimals is they're much more accurate to 2 decimal places, etc. And that's actually true. That is true. But I'm just telling you, I think it's much easier the way that we're doing it. And every variable that's in here except the percentage is a currency variable. But funny things can happen when you mix doubles and currencies.
I did doubles, but
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing it that way. All right, so the next one is the discount amount. That's that first text box. I'm sorry. That's the first label that we put in. And notice it's green. And it's green because that's a warning telling us we got this variable that we're not using that we declared. That green will go away in just a minute. Let me make this smaller so you can see everything. And the last one is total price. Again, if you say you're going too fast or I can't see it or whatever, you have the code. All right? Now that we're here, we literally have very few lines to do. Please look up on the screen. This should be obvious to all of you. Okay. Somebody tell me, how did they get that 100 that's right there? How did they get that? You know it. It's right on the screen. How did they get that $100?
it's with 20% of 500.
Right. They did a multiplication. But you have to make sure, don't say 500 times 20. It's got to be 500 times 20 divided by 100. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Then once we get the 100, how do we get the total price? We take that, we subtract that, right? That's all that's left. So we have 4 lines of code. We have to figure that out and then put it in this label, and then we have to figure that out and put it in the label. That's all that's there. That's all of the C# code. So let's put that in. The order in which you do this isn't that important, but this is the order I did it. So I'm going to say here, calculate discount amount. All right, and it's discount amount, and it's equal to the sales price. Okay, I'm going to have to make this smaller also you won't be able to see it all on the screen. Times the discount percent divided by 100. Now, if you raise your hand and said, could you also do it this way? Couldn't you? There's a lot of ways this could be done. All right? And then after we've done that, let's just display it right away. So display discount amount. All right, and how do we do that? We say label. What did I call that one? Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to check here. We didn't give it a name. That doesn't have that's, why did that even work then? Let's see, I didn't give that an ID?
You didn't put label before it.
Oh, well then let's take a look. All right, so let me go back into my source mode. Oh, you're right, I didn't put label in front of it. I just put DISC amount. We can leave it like that, that's fine. That's not gonna hurt anything. So this will be, now I understand what you were saying to me. DISC amount, all right, that's equal to discount, boy oh boy. that is equal to the discount amount dot to string. Now I'm formatting it to currency. And of course I can't spell. Okay, what doesn't it like? Cannot implicitly convert string to system web UI controls. Is there a dot text on here? There we go. Sorry. Again, if you want to be a purist here, I could have, instead of calling that DISCAMT, I could have called it label DISCAMT. All right? And when I say a purist, that's somebody who follows the rules all the time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. All right? So, did you notice that was green with the squigglies before, how that went away? All right, well, let's figure out the last one. And to make it simpler on myself, I'm just going to go and copy this. Paste it in. And now I want to calculate the total price. And total price is equal to, well, we already know what that is. It's the sales price minus the discount percent. And then we want to display that. What did we call that before somebody has to tell me? That was, that one we did say label. Okay, fine. Label tote price. All right. Okay, that's all of the C# right there. Now, just because of the fact that I'm anal and this is going to bug me, I'm going to go back and do this. You don't have to. I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go back to my source mode, and I'm going to change the name of that to label discount amount. All right? I just think that's, you know, I should be consistent. And if I called one of them label, I should call them both label. Okay? You don't have to do that. Now, I'm going to save, and I'm going to try to run it. See what it looks like. All right, there it is. Put in their numbers, 520. Well, it looks like something's wrong there because it shouldn't have been 480. So I must have done had a mistake in my formula. But notice it does work, correct? Now, if you were Ethan and you put like he did, he put a clear label in there, he can now click his clear button if he wants to. All right, if he's put the code in there for it. If he hasn't put the code in, of course, it's not going to do anything. Now, since my formula is wrong here, it looks like it's taking the 500 and it's subtracting the percent when I wanted to subtract the amount. See that? So I made a mistake on mine. Wow, that's the first time I've ever made a mistake. Everybody laughs. Okay, so what I should have said there, it's not minus the discount percent. Everybody see this? That should say discount amount. That's what it should have said. I apologize for putting it in there incorrectly. Okay? So now if my discount amount is 100, 500 minus 100 should give me 400. Okay? Anybody have any questions on any of the C#? All right. I'll tell you what. I know we typically take a break now. Let's put the validators in so we get all this stuff done. All right? So the good news is we have now done the first 11 out of these 17 steps. And step 17 on here, step 17 just says go back and check and make sure everything looks nice. So we've really done, we've got 5 steps to go, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All right? Please, if you would, look up on the screen here. All right? For now, I'm going to close my C# file. I'm going to save it and close it. But I'd like everybody to look up on the screen, if you would. They do show this in the book. All right. This field and this field are both bolded. Now, we could do that with CSS, correct? But we can also, if you want to, and this is how I did it, just because I could, I guess. I clicked on here, and I went down to font. And if you click the plus sign, there's a bold thing there. And if you set it to true, it's now bolded. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one. So click it, go into your properties, find under font, click the plus sign, find bold, it says false, double click it so it says true. Now both those fields are bolded. Now it should look like it does in the book. All right, I'm going to save, and just to make sure, I'm going to run it. And once it comes up, I'm going to put in, like they did in the book, 500, and I'm going to put in 20, click calculate. All right, as far as I can tell, that looks the way it does in the book. Hopefully you agree with me. All right, so the only thing that's left is to add these required field validators. Everybody hear that? All right, they even tell you pretty much what they want you to say in there, etc. So let me go back. I've got my notes here. If you would, please, let me go back to my notes. All right, so we're going to actually put both the validators in here. If you look up on the screen, they're all going to go in this column, both of them in here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to click, and I want to basically come over to here, okay? But what I want to do, for lack of better words, is I want to do this, all right? All right, I want to go back. Oh, it's because I'm running. I'm working on my run. That's why it looks so funky. All right. So I want to stop the run, and I want to click over here. When I get all done, when I'm totally finished, I'm going to remove the border. All right, when I'm done, when I'm happy with it. All right, I could leave it in there. There's nothing that says we can't do that. If that helps you when you do your test, I want you all to ace the test. And if it helps to put borders and stuff in there or to change colors, then do it. Okay, that's fine. So I'm here, and I want to go back into my source mode, and I want to remove what's there. And the first thing I'm going to do is, in my toolbox, I'm going to find one of these required fields, the required field validator, and I'm going to drag that in. Okay, so I now have a required field validator. You know this from the other day. It puts a lot of stuff in there. See that? So I'm going to start busting it up over multiple lines. Okay, so there's my required field validator. What's the first thing wrong with this? Not wrong, but what's the first thing we want to change?
The ID.
I want to change the ID. Since this is for my sales price, I'm going to call this required field validator sales price. Okay? The second thing is, they say all you need to put there for an error message is just the word required. That's all they want you to put in, is just the word required.
Oh.
Now you've got your choice. Please look up on the screen here. Notice how that's in there now, right? We want to put another one here. You can go through the process again, or you can copy the required field validator that you just did and put it in there. Does that make sense to everyone? What I'm doing when I write these things is I'm writing them using my style. And if you look at it and go, your style sucks, Jeff, then do it your way. I'm just doing it because I've been doing it for a while, and maybe mine is a little bit weird to some of you. All right? But I'm doing it in what I consider to be the most straightforward way of doing it. That's all. All right, so again, I'm going to come over to here. I'm going to go back into my source mode. I'm going to grab all that, Control C or copy, however you do a copy. Then I'm going to go back to design mode, go over to here to make sure I'm in the right row, go back into source mode, and paste that in. All right, and I'm going to call this one required field validator discount percent. And again, the message is in there is just required. So if you look up on the screen, I think I can. Okay, I can pretty much show you both of them. Okay? Again, where is it? I think, as far as I know, everything is there. So let's go back into design mode. Okay, it says required. I want to get rid of that semicolon that I put in there, but you get the idea. All right, so let me get rid of that semicolon. Got the word required. There's the semicolon, so that's fixed. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to run it. Now, when I click the calculate button, I should get my errors, correct, for that say required? All right. Oh, why don't I get that? Because now, since we put in those validators, we're going to have to go back and do that unobtrusive validation. Let's not do that yet. We'll do that last, okay? But this won't work right now. We'll get it to work in literally about 5 minutes. All right.
Is that unobtrusive thing just, it's that one line?
It's either, no, we're not even, we're gonna go through NuGet in the package manager like we did. So we don't have to, we're gonna let the system add everything it needs for us. We're gonna do that in just a moment. All right. So the other thing that we want to do, if you look up on the screen here, we have either required or we're gonna have to put in a compare validator. Now, one thing before we put in the compare validator. Tiffany brought this up yesterday because I forgot to do it, and I did again today. Hey, control to validate, right? So let's set our control to validate on this one to text box sales price, and let's set our control to validate on this one. Let's set it up to text box discount amount. Okay? We're still not done. There's one more thing that we want to do. Okay? We want to set the status, the display that's static. We want to set the display right there on both of these to dynamic, which means only use that space if you need to use the space. So I'm going to come up to the first one. I'm going to go to display and change it from static to dynamic. I'm going to go to the second one. I'm going to go to display and I'm going to change it to dynamic. And again, if what I'm trying to do here for you doesn't make sense, you have to let me know. All right? Okay, so that's the first one. Then we have to put in our second validator. We need a compare validator here, and we need one here. Everybody with me? But what I decided to do is just to hit the space bar twice and hit the space bar twice, just so that my words don't, on the screen, don't bump into one another. That's all. Okay? So I'm going to come down to my compare validator, and I'll drop one here. And I'm going to come down to my compare validator, and I'm going to drop one here. All right? Now, you should know all this stuff by now, but just to show you this, if everybody look, I'm at the first compare validator. Just to show you, I can change everything from in here if I want to. So I'm going to change this one, and I'm changing it in the properties window to compare validator sales price. All right. Then I'm going to come down and I'm going to set my control to validate to text box sales price. Then I'm going to come down to display and I'm going to set it to dynamic. And then I'm going to set my error message down here. And I tried to keep it a fairly small, at least I thought it was, error message. And it says, mine says price range 10 to 1,000. How did I come up with those numbers? That's what they give you in the book. So this is my error message. Price range 10 to 1,000. The reason I'm showing it to you like this is sometimes some developers like to change it in here because when you do, you've got everything right in front of you. You change the ID, boom. You change the control to validate, you change the display, you change the message. Some people like to do it in there. Does that make sense? What? One. Either one. Go ahead.
So you can change like. Okay, so there's the.
You can change things in the properties window and it immediately changes in your source
Right,
window.
and in the range one, so
Yes.
say you put the range one and the input validator up right for, just say discount percent.
Yeah.
If you put those up at the same
And,
time,
hey,
you Control C.
yes,
and whatever
yes,
you-
that's what we're gonna do in just a second. Guess what? I screwed up. I wish I could say I did it on purpose. I really do, but I didn't. We don't want a compare validator. We want range validators.
Yeah.
So get rid of both the compare validators we just put in here. Just highlight them and hit delete. Highlight it again. If we only put one in, well, that's good. I guess we did put them in both of them. So get rid of them. All right. Then go back and change it. I actually wish I could tell you that I did that on purpose, but I didn't. All right. Come and move over.
Not Control C. I meant Control and then click on both to highlight both, and then can you change like
There are, let's put it this way. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. There are so many ways that you can change one thing and have them change the other. You know. So if that's what you're saying, yeah, there's, like I said, there's a lot of ways that this can be done. All right. So I'm going to come back, and now we'll put the right one in there, which is a range validator. So I'll put a range validator here, and I'll put a range validator there. All right. And now let's do it the other way, just to be different. So I'll go down to source mode here. All right. And there's my range validator. There's all the stuff we put in before. So there's the error message. There's the control to validate. There's the display equal dynamic. This is all the stuff we did for the last one. All right. I like to put these, at least have a line between them. Just to break it up a little bit. You don't have to do that. So here's my range validator. There's more stuff that we have to put in here, though. All right. So instead of calling it range validator 1, this will be range validator sales price. I have to spell sales right. All right. Now, again, I'm not sure if this is what you were saying, but I'm going to just show it to you this anyway. Remember what we have to do in here. We have to set the minimum, we have to set the maximum, and we have to set the type. Correct? All right. So I can come in here and I can say minimum equal, and I think that was 10, but I don't remember. All right, I think it was 10. And notice no errors, which meant that it took okay. And I can say maximum equals 1,000, and then finally type equal double. That's the same thing as if I went over here and did it, right? Right there? Okay. Now, I'm going to grab everything in this range validator. I'm going to grab all of it. Did we create a range validator down here? Did I put another one in already? Yes, I did. Okay. So what I'm going to do, just to show you, just again for something different, all right, I'm going to grab all that stuff that we just put in. Where is it? Come on, where are you? All right, well, it's over. Okay. But for our other validator, which is right here, okay, I'm going to come back over to here. I could have just copied that other stuff in, but we won't. This one, just so we do something a little bit, whoops, just so we do something that's a little bit different. All right, there's the ID. There's the run at equal server. There's the error message, okay, etc. So this is now going to be what? The other one was, this is for the discount percent. So this will be range validator discount percent. Come on, get smaller. Thank you. Okay. And I know what stuff I'm going to want to bring in because I already did it up here. So if I want to do that, I can grab the minimum and the maximum and the type. I can even do that. Just grab part of them, bring them in here, and paste them in. Okay?
Is the minimum and maximum the same for the percent?
No, that's not. We're going to have to change them. Those are like, I think, 10 and 50, something like that. So you have to change it. But all I'm trying to show you is a bunch of different ways that you can achieve the same result. That's all. All right? Now, the error message here, we don't want it to say a range validator. I'm just going to say range 10 to 50. And for the other one that we already did, where it's got range validator, I'm going to say range 10 to 1,000. Range 10 to 1,000. Save. I'm going to go back and look at it in design mode. This is how yours should look if you look up on the screen here. Believe it or not, we only have one more thing to do and we're actually finished. Anybody guess what that one more thing is we want to do? Well, there's two things. You were both right. We have to add the unobtrusive validation and put in our CSS. Let's do our CSS first. You don't have to, but let's do it first anyway. Now, look on the screen, please. Everybody. You should all know how to do this, but I'm going to walk you through it again anyway, just to be sure. First thing we want to do is we want to add a brand new folder. Right mouse click on your project name, choose Add, New Folder. All right, we're going to call the new folder CSS. Okay. Then we're going to right mouse click on our new folder, choose Add New Item, and we want to choose Style Sheet. We'll call it Style. All right, we get this ugly style sheet right here that just says body on it. We want to make a class that's called error, and we want to say what? Well, we want to say the color is red and the font weight is bold. Now, if we wanted to, if you look up on the screen here, if we wanted to, we could make that text bigger, correct? We could just say font size and give it a different size. We could give it a different font by using font family. We're not doing any of that, but we could. That's the entire, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, that's the entire CSS file. That's everything. Good time to save. All right, I'm going to go back to my default ASPX file, go into source mode. Remember this from yesterday or the day before or whenever it was, that I can go into my head section, I can grab that CSS file and drag it in. Well, try it again. Drag it in. There we go. So you can either manually type it. All right, you can either manually type it or you can drag it in like I did. If it worked, look on the screen. All right, well, I'm surprised. Well, oh, we haven't added the CSS class yet. As soon as we do, these are going to turn red and be bolded. Okay? We have how many validators? How many validators do we have? What?
4.
That's correct. So we've got to go to all 4 of the validators. So I'm going to go back into source mode and find all 4 of my validators. Here's the first one, the required field. Everybody see this? Right before I've got that ending tag, I'm going to hit enter. Look on the screen. I'm going to hit enter. CSS class equal, and notice it finds error. So I want to put CSS class equal error on the first validator, and I want to put it on the second validator, and I want to put it on the third validator, and I want to put it on the fourth validator. Okay, now if I did it correctly, because I did it fast, notice they're all red and bold. See that? That doesn't make the program run any better, but it is sending at least a subliminal message to our user that, hey, something's wrong. It's red and it's bold. Okay? Now we've got just the one last thing to do. I'll give you a second to catch up if you've gotten behind me. All right. I'm going to do one last thing. We get that unobtrusive validation. If you look up on the screen, hopefully you remember this from the other day. Right mouse click on your project name. Go to Manage NuGet Packages. All right. And go to make sure Browse is selected. Make sure Browse is selected. And click, go in the search bar, type in ASP.NET. It remembers mine from yesterday. See where it's got ASP.NET? Yours may be the same, may not be. So ASP.NET dot, there it is. So I'm going to choose that. This is the one I want. The ASP.NET Script Manager jQuery. Click Install. Click OK. You don't have to worry if it comes in here, it talks about another version. Just leave that alone. I can now close this. And the great news is, after I save and run it, I should be done. Oh, still telling me the control. Oh, I left one of those new ones I put in. I didn't do the control to validate. You probably did. I didn't. I love it. You might laugh, but I love it when I make mistakes like that. And if you say, well, I didn't do that, that's good, because then you were more attuned than I was. So we'll go back and change those. I don't have those control to validate set. So there's the sales price. There's the discount percent. I think these are set. Yep, yes, they are. So I'm going to run it one more time. Okay, 500, 100. Let's make sure I still get the right answers. Oh, it says my range is 10 to 1,000. Okay, I didn't set my minimum and my maximum and my range thing. I didn't set those. Or if I did, I set them incorrectly. Or I didn't set my type. So you already should know, you should be able to debug yourself to figure out what the problem is with this stuff. All right? If I leave it blank, notice I'm getting my required. Those are both set correctly. See that? They're both correct. So what's screwed up is the other ones. That is the old run. So we'll fix that. So range validator, let's look. My minimum, I thought I set them, but maximum is 1,000, minimum is 10, and the type is double. All right, the other one, maximum is 50, minimum is 10, and again, it's of type double. All right, save, run it. Well, I'll tell you what, let's do one last thing before I run this. Now I'm going to remove where I've got that border equal 1. I'm going to remove my border. And run it, hopefully, one last time. Okay, there's 500. There's 100. Click calculate. Still is something screwed up. Oh, not 100%. That should be a 10. Okay. There's my, oh, it was supposed to be 20%, wasn't it? Want to use the one they used in the book. Okay, that looks correct. And very quickly, I'm going to leave them off and make sure my required comes up, and it does. I'm going to put in something that's out of range, and those come up. Everybody see that? That's it. That's what I'd expect you to be able to do. Now, we did that fairly quickly as a class in an hour and a half, but I'm expecting that you can do that, all right, over a 3-hour period for a test. All right, let's take, it's 1:54. Let's actually take 20. Let's come back at 2:15.